let's taste Master's Cut. So this is a whiskey from 40 Creek. It was a special release in 2021. Comes in a lovely bottle. Every year, 40 Creek produces a special release, and they're always worth watching. And this year was a really good one. So, quite an interesting whiskey. It originated as early as 1996, and what happened was there was a number of whiskeys that had really gotten too woody, and they weren't sellable. So what 40 Creek did is they redistilled them 5 years ago, or I guess 5 years before the whiskey was released, to then basically take the parts out that were bad, the over woodiness, and create something new. And they did this in mind to create something pretty unique. So they were looking towards doing a cask strength whiskey release. 40 Creek's whiskey is quite light, and so with doing a cask strength release and light whiskeys, it doesn't always play that well together. I personally feel like lighter whiskeys, I prefer it lower ABVs just because you can appreciate all the subtlety and you don't have the force of some flavors that some other whiskeys do at cask strength. So they wanted to put it into the barrel at a lower ABV. So normally whiskeys go into the barrel at around say 60%. 40 Creek, when they redistilled these whiskeys, they only went up to 44.5%. That's interesting for a few reasons. One is usually you don't see that, and so you get a different interaction in the barrel. But also, when you're distilling to higher and higher ABV, you are taking more and more flavors out. Like more and more of it's alcohol and less is flavor. Usually, distilling to a low ABV like that, you're going to get all kinds of stuff you don't want. Fermentation creates all kinds of flavors that you don't necessarily want concentrated. So, because the whiskey was already aged, a lot of that stuff had already been taken out. So there was an ability really to collect more flavor, distill to a lower ABV, and put it in a barrel. 5 years later, cask strength 48.5%. So nothing like the 60% cask strength whiskeys we normally see, but a cask strength whiskey, undiluted. So pretty interesting. It was matured in ex-bourbon and reused barrels. So let's give it a taste. So on the nose, really, really nice. It's quite nutty. There's a really nice oak character to it. So it's this kind of bright, sweet oak. It's not like a heavy caramel oak. It's not overpowering in terms of its woodiness. It's just this light touch, and it's there, and it's very well balanced. And you have lots of other things around it as well. So there's light candied fruit notes. You have a bit of nuttiness, a tiny bit of spice. Some of the spice both has a bit of a woodiness to it, but then also kind of your spicy rye character as well, if you taste it. 40 Creek is this really nice characteristic that you can find in most of their whiskeys. It's kind of this toasted oak toffee character. I find it in pretty well everything they make. And it's kind of a telltale sign. Not that it can be quite difficult to identify things blind. It's one of the telltales for 40 Creek. Anyway, all that to say, this has that. A really, really nice entry. So you have this sweet toasted oak, this oakiness, you get dried fruits, and the whole kind of experience kind of starts like this, and it just slowly drags out and kind of slowly narrows in on a tiny bit of oak, a tiny bit of nuttiness, and then a bit of dry spice and tannin. The corn in it is awesome. So there's a tiny bit of corn that plays through beautifully through the whole thing. You get these really nice kind of bright herbal notes, like a bit like bean sprouts. Yeah, spice, dried fruit. It's a really, really good one. The finish is it starts off a bit sweet and just a tiny bit fruity, or on the stone fruit side, and then it slowly, the tannins build up and your mouth kind of slowly dries out, still with a bit of residual sweetness, which is actually, it's very nice. I really enjoy finishes like that, where the tannins kind of take hold and dry your mouth out, but it doesn't, not too much. Yeah, and I get kind of a light, kind of toasted nuts still on the finish. So very, very pleasant whiskey. You can still find it, and it's an example of just a really nice limited edition Canadian whiskey that's on the shelves now.